Welcome to Rossman Radio, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs, founders, and e-commerce brands that are breaking through the noise and scaling like never before. I'm Elise, and Rossman Media is a trend-forward social media agency specializing in going viral and delivering 10x returns for the brands that we work with. Each week, I'll sit down with industry disruptors to talk about the highs, the lows, and the exact strategies that help them grow from their first sale to multi-million-dollar milestones. If you're ready to unlock what it really takes to win on social, build a community, and multiply your revenue, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
All right, welcome to Rossman Radio. I'm Rob Nichols. Today I'm joined by Jacob Walters, the founder of Jobats. Jacob started turning wood on a lathe at age 15, grew it into a custom bat brand with viral moments across Instagram and TikTok, and a loyal base of players and coaches. We'll talk about how he built the brand, what content really moves the needle, and what's next as Jobats rolls into limited drops, holiday season, and new product lines. So Jacob, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So I want to know the story of the first bat you ever made, and how did that spark the business that you run today?
Yeah. So first, from what my memory serves, it was a bat that I made for my high school season, summer ball maybe, or fall ball, whichever. And I think it was broken and put in a trash can at some baseball complex. But we have one of the original bats here. It may be the first. Like I said, I can't remember. It's all foggy, but it's at least the bat that kind of really got things going for me. It was a bat I made for my buddy that then showed his hitting coach at the time, and then his hitting coach kind of called me up and told me to come talk to him, and he told me to keep making them. So they're pretty decent, and then they got worse from there for a while, but. So that was kind of what sparked the passion. I loved woodworking. My family's big in woodworking and just crafts, trade, anything. And I love creating stuff with my hands, and of course love baseball. So combine those two passions, and it never looked back.
Nice. In the early days, or I guess in the beginning of the brand, what were your most effective channels for getting the word out? How did people come to know about Jobats?
Initially, it was really just all Twitter. I don't think Instagram was really much of a thing yet. This would have been like probably 2010, 11. I'm sure Instagram was there, but it was so maybe in its infancy stage. But so Twitter was always big for baseball and sports content, with all the information and stats. And so we would do a lot of giveaways and just posting through Twitter, and obviously at that time you could grow followings pretty quickly, and that's kind of really what we started doing until Instagram became more of a thing, and then us having such a visual product, then we got into Instagram as well.
Nice. What do you think the point was where you thought, okay, we can really start scaling this business, that you can make a living from this?
I think maybe I never thought that. I was young and naive and too dumb to understand that concept. As soon as you make $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, you think you're rich. And at 18 years old, as a broke college kid playing baseball, you think $10 is enough money to do anything with. But I think it was not till it became very difficult to be a student athlete and also make bats at the same time. So my house was 2 hours from my school, and I would drive home and work till, midnight, 1, 2 a.m. and then get up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to get back to class. And that became difficult, as you fall asleep on the road and struggle through class. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, there's a little bit of demand here. It's keeping me busy. I'm making enough to buy more billets and supplies. Let's go ahead and do this thing. So it came down to an ultimatum of, let's either stop doing this and keep playing baseball, or stop going to school and do this business, which I hated school. So that was a pretty easy decision.
You made it work for you for sure, though. So how do you think that your marketing has evolved like over time? Do you still find that you're handling most of it on your own as like a smaller brand? Have you worked with any partners so far? What do you think the most effective way that you're reaching people is right now?
Yeah, I think we've always done it ourselves. We've always had such a small team and relied heavily on Instagram and TikTok and X and word of mouth. And it's worked for us because we have such a different product. And I think this year we're really realizing that, okay, you can't just rely on, organic growth through those platforms, especially as people kind of catch on to your style and not necessarily mimic, but create a similar style to what you're doing. And it becomes harder to make yourself different in the market. So now we're kind of struggling through trying to figure out how to paid advertising through, of course, meta ads and uh, other ways too with NIL stuff through influencers, which is a little more difficult at our price point. But so it's been a learning curve for us this year to understand, like, okay, you got to not be so lazy with it, and let's hit the ground and really hit marketing hard. But we brought a partner on about 3 years ago that helps with the whole business side of things. So we're developing some strategies to kind of rebrand, or not rebrand, but kind of show a more clear image of who we are as a company. And we became known as the Pretty Back Company, and not necessarily a performance-based brand, which that's what we are. It was always about performance because I was always, a player first. So that's what we're trying to redevelop and get that out into the market and have people understand.
Gotcha. What do you think the toughest part about uh, being a smaller brand is? Like, what's the hardest part of growing with a small team? Like, is it the consistency of the content that's getting put out there? Is it adopting paid ad strategies, building your email lists, or something else?
Yeah, I think really all of those. Email list is tough because it's you kind of have to, if you're a small brand and don't have the money to invest and buy email lists from wherever it may be, you kind of have to organically gather those lists. And same with doing ads and stuff. It's not like we have a $10 million marketing budget that we can put towards ads and other advertising. We're pretty strapped on marketing budget. So that's the hardest part. Is just getting lost in the big ad spend budgets of the big corporate companies that can come in and just, kind of swallow you out with money. But we can act quickly on other things and with keep up with trends or create new trends. And I think that's kind of the best way to compete.
Totally. What percentage of your business do you think is coming from, or do you know is coming from like repeat customers? Do you get a lot of people who have been with you for years?
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that today. So I would think we're in the 60 to 70%, maybe even higher, of return customers, which is great, but we're not doing a good enough job at getting new customers. And that's just because our outreach on social is kind of tapered off with Instagram algorithms and, just kind of growing into something that people have seen before. So, yeah, I think our big struggle right now is to how can we, at the cheapest way, create new buyers, because we've always done a really good job with our return customers. Us being young and working with our players hand in hand, it's always been a easy thing for us. But it's just how can we create new customers now?
Yeah, that prospecting has got to be the biggest challenge for you. Do you ever work with like getting like testimonials or like people saying, I'm sure you've got a lot of like positive reviews online. You ever talk to your existing clients about getting some of that and maybe using those for like advertising?
Yeah, that's what we're working on now, actually. We talked about today. We've got some NIL guys that we're getting ready to do some videos with, some local high school guys. We just did some bats for them, so we just filmed some content of them getting fitted and their bat being made. And then also we'll go do a video of them hitting. As we get back to our, our performance-based content that we kind of neglected for too long on accident, we need to utilize our return customers and our people that are around us for that, imagery. And I think we do a really good job of creating a story with our photography. Braden is our creative director, and he's incredibly talented at photography and capturing that story in a picture. And so I think we got too far away from that, from Instagram always promoting reels so much that sometimes it's okay to not have a ton of likes, but to build that image consistently over time. So that's what we're working on now, for sure.
Yeah, I know we work a lot with our clients on that social proof. I always talk to clients about, if you're scrolling through any, paid social or any social channel. So if you're on Instagram, if you're on TikTok, and you see an ad that has, a ton of positive comments on it and a lot of likes, versus one that's just brand new showing up in your feed and there's no engagement on it, it's always better to have that social proof. So even if it's not testimonial content, really trying to take the best organic posts that you have and putting them in front of the right people, even at a really small budget, can make a big difference. Because, you've been in business for a long time, and you know that the difference between you and someone who's just like starting out is that you have that built-in client base. You have the built-in proof and the reviews and everything to give you that boost. I think that same principle can be applied across social media too, hopefully. If you're not,
Yeah, it's I can't imagine starting over. It's just such a daunting idea. But we kind of did when we got into softball. We created a softball account on Instagram, and we started at zero. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do to get this thing going again? But and we've done a better job with softball because we've known the lessons that we've learned through our baseball account. And girls are much easier to work with than the guys. They're more marketable. They do what you ask, and they're appreciative. But it's just, what can you do that's not controversial, but create a conversation through the comments that'll really help Instagram share your post? And so I think we've come up with some ideas to where it's like, how do we catch your attention right off the bat with our posts? And sometimes that's ask a question. That's a common issue with people in our industry. Like, here are the 3 things you're doing wrong that is affecting your batting average, or here's what you have to do to increase your exit velocity. And so instantly it grabs that person that's like, okay, I kind of would like to increase my exit velocity. That'll help my game a lot. And then it eliminates the people that wouldn't be buyers anyways, that don't need to know how to increase their exit velocity because they're not playing baseball anymore. But so it's maybe not so much trying to target so many people, but trying to target the right people is what we need to, I think, focus more on.
Yeah, you put it really, really well. I think that it's really about making sure that the right audience is seeing your content, and that when they are, they're paying attention for longer than the normal time. We always talk about attention and emotion, right? So like, what hook grabs your attention right away, and then what emotion are you generating in that ad that is getting people to share it? Most people on Instagram now in 2025 are sharing privately versus publicly too. So we really try to focus on not just like those comments, but like, what about those shares, and what about sending to your friends in DMs? That's really powerful. If like we can get somebody to talk about your product, talk about job ads, and actually send it to someone, that's really, really, it sends a good signal to the algorithm that what we're doing is on the right track. But you're right completely about grabbing attention right away. It's in the attention economy, when everybody has a very short attention span, that first 3 seconds is huge. So making sure that you've got a lot of content that you can test too, I think, is, for smaller brands anyway, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
On that front, how do you create content right now? I know that you mentioned working with some like NIL players. Do you guys produce things in-house yourself a lot to push out there, or do you mainly work with other creators, or is it a little bit of a mix?
Yeah, I think we do it a lot in-house just because the creators can get so expensive. So we have very visually appealing process where it's, cutting a bat on a CNC and spraying colors on bats and clear coating. And so we try to do some production videos. We try to do videos with our local guys that we sell bats to or give bats to. Whenever they leave for college or high school, it's always tough. We miss our guys when they leave, but and then utilizing, I think the fitness industry is such a good example to pay attention to. There's so many influencers that they have, and I'm very jealous of their market, but they do such a good job with creating these ad campaigns, not as a sales pitch from their company, but from a position of a influencer that's just basically just showing them what they do day to day anyways. So you're grabbing two large audiences and not selling them a product, but basically just creating here's what I do, and then here are the results. It's very cut and dry with the fitness industry. And I think baseball can be similar. We're maybe a little behind in that way, but there's a lot of great influencers in the baseball world that kind of get gobbled up. But that's what's so great about softball is there's a lot of influence, girls that are influencers, and they are so influenced by each other no matter what level they're at. So if they're at a Division II or a JUCO or a high, Power 3 Division 1, as long as they're making good content and they're fun to watch, the girls pay attention to each other. So we can go get micro influencers all day long, and they do such a good job of promoting product and creating content that it's so valuable. Whereas the guys, I get it. I wouldn't want to post content like that as a dude, but if they would, they could really create some value for themselves.
Completely. Yeah. It's the difference between, people regularly complain about getting served more and more ads on social media, but at least from a creator or an influencer, it's a little bit more real and a little bit more, I think that the reason why we continue to use a lot of influencers is that it's more personable. It feels more genuine, especially considering a lot of influencers don't want to work with brands that they don't actually want to, they don't, believe in, or they would be ashamed to work with. They usually choose those projects pretty carefully. And that, the other point I was going to mention is affiliate marketing. So having a lot of smaller brands especially struggle with the cost of those creators and those influencers and working with them. You find a good one and you try to build a long-term agreement that is beneficial to both people. And we're seeing more and more, especially with smaller brands who are starting out on Shopify and places like that it makes sense to work with affiliate commission. So giving influencers a promo code that gives their followers a benefit, and then they get a percentage of the sale that comes back to them, really performance based, which is kind of rare when it comes to advertising. Normally in the digital world, you try to do the best you can with the campaigns that you're running, but there's no, added incentive other than your bottom line. For those creators, that gives them the reason to post more about it, to share the stories, to actually create more content around it. And we found that can actually be more beneficial for both. Creators can make more money if they sell more, and if you're selling more, you're happy.
Right. It's a win-win, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We use Reversion through Shopify.
Great.
So we do that a lot with our NIL, and actually our highest performers are podcasts and some of the influencers too. But they try to promote, but they don't get a lot of conversion as our high school and college guys. But they're working on it. At least they're trying.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be a slow trickle to start out with, but it gets better over time. How about what's coming up next? So I can't believe it. We're already talking about, Halloween and the holiday season, but what are you excited about? What's next for Jaw Bats? New bats, gloves, grips. What kind of launches do you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, so I love Halloween. We always have a fun limited edition bat or two that we have coming out for Halloween, and then this year again is our pretty cool bat. So we always have to be careful with copyright infringement when we do any of this stuff. We had 4 cease and desist last year, so lawyer
Oh, no.
to be careful. So we're getting ready to send out our first campaign about the Freddy Krueger bat, and we will launch that October 1st. That way we make sure everybody gets their stuff before Halloween. They have any like Halloween tournaments or anything like that. So that'll be first. We have a Michael Myers one as well. And then during Christmas, we have done a Grinch bat that does really well before. That one I'm pretty nervous about because it's there's nothing you can really do but put the Grinch face on there, and it's a lot of fun. So we'll see on that again, but those are usually what we come out with, and so the holidays are always fun. And then in terms of other products, we just had our product meeting today. We've got batting gloves. We just got some samples in today or yesterday. So here's some the big cup batting gloves, and comes with a nice case pouch that the gloves go in. So these are kind of the prototypes that are in the works. We got a wonderful tariff on that order that came in, so we're maybe have to pivot a little bit with the manufacturer, but those will be big for us. Batting gloves are so supplemental to bats, obviously. As we photograph our guys hitting, you don't necessarily always get the logo position perfectly, but man, when you have batting gloves, it's always going to be right there. So we're excited for those. There's good margins on batting gloves. They've become quite expensive these days. Bat grips, obviously another great supplemental product to bats. And then we are developing metal bats as well, which would be huge for us. The metal bat market is obviously such a huge percentage of the baseball and softball market. With wood, you're dabbling in a tiny little percentage of people that actually swing wood. You're talking about high school summer season, college summer season, and then pros, and that's about it. So it's such a small percentage. You're leaving off, pretty much 13, 12U and under, that you're not utilizing. So that our goal is to launch by June next summer, and I think we're on track for that. We're getting a lot of engineering and development going for that. So we've been 2 years in the works, and I'm ready to be done with it. But those are big things. In apparel too, we do a ton of lifestyle streetwear, and then also on the field athletic apparel, kind of Lululemon-esque quality athletic wear.
Nice.
That's kind of our bread and butter.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, listen, Jacob, I love how you've kept kind of the craft front and center. It's amazing where you started from and where you are now. I know that a smaller building from the ground up is a challenging feat, but I think that the fact that you're building a real community on the product is gonna take you a lot of places. For those who are listening, who are interested, who play baseball, play softball, who are interested in learning more about JawBats, it's jawbats.com. Go on there, take a look at their latest drops, and we hope you have nothing but success in the future, Jake.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it and love what you guys are doing.
Thanks so much.